Afternoon. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to the ANTS webinar series on professional development and leadership in neuropsychology. This afternoon, we have with us Dr. Ravdin, and we are welcoming her here today to talk about professional development and leadership in neuropsychology. Dr. Ravdin is the director of the Weill Cornell Neuropsychology Service, where she is an associate professor in the Department of Neurology at Weill Cornell Medicine, New York Presbyterian Hospital. She is board certified in clinical neuropsychology by the American Board of Professional Psychology and the American Board of Clinical Neuropsychology. Although she evaluates adults of all ages, she has expertise in age-related disorders, and her research activities focus on cognitive changes associated with neurologic disorders and aging. Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to welcome Dr. Ravdin, as well as to thank her on behalf of the entire ANTS community for taking this time to provide us with her guidance on professional development in the field of neuropsychology.
Thank you for having me.
So we will jump in right away with our first question. Our questions have come from a variety of different sources and from trainees across the training spectrum. So our first question is, how does gaining leadership positions or roles make students and trainees more competitive for internship, postdocs, and jobs?
Okay, well, being active in professional organizations, especially in a leadership role, certainly helps one to stand out as being motivated and being involved. And that certainly can be an advantage really at any stage. It's a CV booster at any stage in your career. But leadership begins with membership. You really have to be a member of the organizations before you can step in and try to lead the way. And so I would encourage students and trainees at all levels to participate and become a member in your various professional organizations. We have several in neuropsychology. You can look up their mission statements, find out what's most appealing to you, what might be the best fit. But a lot of these organizations really seek to include students. So the membership dues are reduced compared to that for professional members. And you can feel them out and get a sense of what might be the best fit for you. So I think that really applies to just the issue of professional development, not exclusively leadership, applies to both. I think, helpful obviously for people who are aspiring to leadership, but your professional organization is your professional home. And that's where you're going to grow up and keep coming back to every year and going to conferences. And this is where you're going to get support and resources throughout your career. And these organizations really they serve as the basis for advocacy efforts for the profession. To support the industry as a whole. And it's where you're going to build your professional networks. Once you're inside, once you're a member, then you have access to all these different resources. But for students in particular, trainees, you have there are various student awards, student poster awards, grants. There'll be lectures, webinars like this, ways to help you navigate different processes, the process at different stages. And there are travel scholarships that can help you with the cost of attending conferences. And aside from that financial benefit, you also have the recognition and the increased visibility in your field by being listed as one of those recipients. So if leadership is your goal, and if it's just professional development in general, you need to get involved. You need to be part of these organizations. They all have boards or executive committees that manage, that supervise and govern the organization, but They also have subcommittees, on different topic areas. And that's, as far as the trainees go, that's probably the way in to get involved in various committees. Many of the committees that I've been involved with actually look for students to get involved. So there's definitely a seat at the table for trainees to get involved in these organizations.
Thank you so much for that.
To that question, is what value do students and trainees in neuropsychology have to offer the profession?
Well, I hope they have some value, right? Everyone brings some value. Everybody, brings fresh eyes. It's a new insight and a different perspective. And I'd like to think that, you could be any age and be passionate about your commitment to your profession and bring new ideas. But certainly trainees definitely have energy and new ideas, and it's good to bring in the young blood and to sort of mix that up. So generally what happens in these committees is it's going to be made up of a whole bunch of people. So you'll have the students working side by side with more seasoned professionals, and you get an opportunity to just watch and learn and, learn from the people that you hear about, that you read about, work side by side with them. It's a wonderful opportunity.
So what are some skills that one could learn from being a leader in a leadership role that may help them in the future?
Well, look, this is a situation where you're learning and growing professionally in a way that's just not taught in classrooms. And as I mentioned before, you're working side by side. You have an opportunity perhaps to shadow somebody that you admire in the field and watch them in their business, learn how they're doing what they're doing, learn how to govern. It gives you this opportunity to observe others in a way that you otherwise usually don't have. And then I think when it comes time to make career decisions or transitions, it gives you an opportunity to establish relationships, not only cultivate relationships with your peers, but also establish relationships with professionals where you can then reach out to them for advice as you continue on in your career.
Thank you.
A bit of modeling and a bit of networking in a way.
Absolutely.
What are some practical steps that trainees can take now to best prepare themselves for future leadership and professional development opportunities in the field of neuropsychology?
Well, I think I mentioned earlier, you just try to put yourself in the position and get involved. So ask questions, find an area that interests you. So in neuropsychology, that's a big field. There's a number of different organizations, but find something that's a good fit for you, whether you're interested in focusing on something like reimbursement or community outreach or board certification or patient care. Find that area and then jump in there and work side by side with these people who have been doing this for a long time, and you can learn from them and watch them. And if you're after leadership, don't wait to be invited. You really need to go out there and create these opportunities for yourself.
Can you speak to some of the common challenges that trainees and students face when pursuing leadership and professional development opportunities in neuropsychology? And what advice would you offer them?
Well, I'll answer that question, but then I'm going to turn around and ask you, because I think you guys might actually have a better sense of what you think the obstacles are to getting involved. But from where I sit, look, I'm taking a much different perspective, and I feel like all the organizations I've been involved with have been very actively seeking the input of trainees. But I find sometimes it's the trainees themselves that they sort of hold back, or maybe they think that one voice can't make a difference, or maybe they think they don't have enough experience to come in and participate. And then there are these situations where you need to sort of put yourself out there or self-nominate. And I find that, an obstacle might be that there are people that just not very good at promoting themselves, and they may shy away from that kind of a situation. There's no shame in putting yourself out there, but there is shame when nobody stands up. So I think students need to realize that there's definitely a place for them. They're welcome in many different organizations, and they should participate. In terms of advice, I always tell students, I advise students to look for a mentor. I think in our profession, mentors develop naturally in a lot of situations. So at your program at school, you have an advisor, dissertation advisor. When you're in your clinical training sites, you have supervisors there. And, very often we're fortunate enough that we come contact with people that want to give us some guidance. But you can also go out there. The American Academy of Clinical Neuropsychology has a mentor program through the Student Affairs Committee, and they seek to place neuropsychology students with board certified neuropsychologists to help them through the process. And you fill out a questionnaire with the intention of really trying to match people. So if you are looking to find some mentorship on getting NIH funding, or you want to find someone who's established a successful private practice, they will try to match you with a mentor that's a good fit. And it could be, a variety of different topics, whatever interests you. There's also another program that trainees should know about if you're interested in leadership, and that's with the SCN, the Society for Clinical Neuropsychology. They have a program, a student leadership development program, where students are placed within committees in the organization. And it's my understanding it's a 2-year commitment, and they try to develop leaders and support students in these various governance positions. So there, the work is centered around a particular committee that you're working on, and their goal there is to develop the future leaders of the organization. So what about you guys? What do you think are some of the obstacles that might get in the way for students to participate?
I'll hop in here. I think that one challenge might be, and particularly for students who are earlier in their graduate school career, I can see, being a second year, first year, third year, I feel too new to this field, and I don't know if I have even the leadership skill set right now to take on a leadership position within neuropsychology. What would you say to a trainee that has those sorts of thoughts or beliefs, feeling like they're not sure what they could contribute?
Well, it's something that you develop over time. Like leadership skills can be valuable at any point in your life, and both in the training level and when you're in your career. But even look, as a fellow, Vicki, you've jumped through a bunch of these hurdles already. And so you actually have a lot that you could offer students in the earlier years, how to, go about all those different things that you need to do in order to get where you got, right? What about you, Mo? What do you think? Any obstacles that stand out?
I think it's the wealth of opportunities. I think it often, as trainees, we get overwhelmed with the amount of opportunity. And I think that as trainees, sometimes we struggle with deciding, we want to do everything. Everything is at our fingertips and there's so much out there. So what advice would you give to a trainee that had that challenge of like, they have so many different opportunities? What advice would you give them to focus in on one specific thing? How would they go about deciding that?
Well, I'm not going to feel bad for you because we didn't have the internet when I was going through the training process. And I told you earlier, I actually took out the yellow pages and was looking up neuropsychology to figure out what it was. So look, there is a lot of information out there and you're going to have to sort of narrow in your focus, but do you decide what interests you? Look at the different mission statements of the organizations as an example. See what appeals to you more. Where do you want to put your professional energy? And yeah, there's a lot of information out there, but you know what the good resources are to get that information. I would not accept that information just by Googling it and looking anywhere. So who the players are, who the main organizations are within the field. They'll guide you as to what sort of opportunities are available, and then you just reach out to the ones that you feel like are a good fit for you.
Thank you.
Right. And getting back into sort of developing that skill set in being a leader, when evaluating students for leadership positions, what are some experiences or qualities that you are looking for in applicants? And what qualities help distinguish those that will be okay versus great leaders?
You're saying that, and now I'm going back to the other question, and I'm thinking, and maybe this is a combination of the two. I don't think there's any expectation that students are going to jump in and be the leader. So maybe that's something that holds people back. And you're asking, well, what are we looking for for leadership for students? I don't think really anyone expects the students to take the lead, but rather to be active, to be involved. Look, we've got there are good leaders and bad leaders. You need to develop leadership skills because they'll be helpful throughout your career. You need to be able to learn how to communicate effectively, act decisively. Honesty, integrity are words that come to mind. I think good leaders are people who can motivate and inspire other people. Good leaders surround themselves with other smart people. So there shouldn't be any expectation on a student's part that they're going to be expected to know everything. And they're just participating in a group, and we're looking for their voice.
And when talking about leadership and development in neuropsychology, on a kind of final note, what is one thing that you wish someone would have told you about leadership, and how do you think this may be addressed in the future to kind of overcome this this thing that you wish someone would have told you about?
I don't have one thing that I wish someone would have told me, but as I alluded to earlier, when I was sort of coming up in the training realm, it was very different. It was a different world. There really were not as many training sites. There weren't programs specific to neuropsychology. It's become so much more competitive. I think it's very different now than it was when I was in the training years. Look, I think it's an advantage to students who are in that position now. There's a lot of information out there. Don't get overwhelmed. Process it. Ask your mentor, your advisors. They'll steer you in the right direction. And just be a part of it. Participate in professional organizations. It's a win-win. It's your membership matters, and it matters to the organization, it matters to the profession, and you will benefit also by being a part of it. It's your profession. Get involved.
Well, Dr. Ravdin, we want to take this opportunity again to thank you for taking the time to share your insights on leadership and development in neuropsychology on behalf of the entire ANTS community. I again want to just reiterate and thank you for taking the time to address the questions that are troubling the minds of trainees as they go through the years of training. Is there any other resources that you feel that would be helpful for trainees to research or to look out for to take those steps, like you said, to just get involved?
Get involved. You know the players, right? So INS, AACN, I'm worried I'm going to leave someone out, NAN, APA, SCN. It's all the initials. You can look them up and put neuropsychology next to it when you Google it. But hopefully you know what all these organizations are.
Well, thank you again.
Thanks.
And thank you again on behalf of the entire ANTS community for participating in this initiative.
Okay.